Kelsey Bereth, a 29-year-old mother and pilot, seemed to have it all: a beautiful daughter, a promising career, and a life full of potential. But everything took a horrifying turn when she mysteriously vanished on Thanksgiving Day in 2018. What should have been a joyous holiday with her family turned into a nightmare that shocked the nation. How does a loving mother disappear without a trace, leaving behind a baby girl who desperately needed her? As investigators dug deeper, the case revealed chilling twists that no one saw coming. From suspicious behavior to a sinister plot, the story of Kelsey Bereth's disappearance unraveled into something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Who was behind her vanishing, and what really happened on that fateful day? This is a case of trust betrayed and unimaginable cruelty. A story that will leave you questioning how someone could commit such a horrifying act. Who was Kelsey Bereth? Before tragedy struck, Kelsey Bereth seemed to be living a life that many would envy. Born and raised in Moses Lake, Washington, Kelsey had always been captivated by flight. She was the kind of person who loved adventure, the thrill of the skies, and the sense of freedom that flying offered. As a child, she watched crop dusters on her family's farm, dreaming of a future where she, too, would take to the skies. Her dream became reality when she earned her pilot's license and became a flight instructor. For Kelsey, flying wasn't just a job, it was her passion. She loved sharing that passion with others, teaching students how to control an aircraft with the same precision and joy that had brought her so much happiness. In 2015, Kelsey met Patrick Frazee, a man who lived over 1,000 miles away in Colorado. Through an online dating service, the two began a relationship, and eventually Kelsey moved to Colorado to start a life with Patrick. Together, they welcomed a daughter, Kaylee, into the world in October of 2017. But while Kelsey and Patrick were building a life together, things weren't as perfect as they seemed on the outside. Unbeknownst to Kelsey, there were forces at play that would soon shatter her world completely. What happened to Kelsey Bereth? The last time anyone saw Kelsey Bereth was on Thanksgiving Day, 2018. Surveillance footage showed her at a grocery store in Woodland Park, Colorado, with her daughter. She was seen picking up a few items before heading home, but then she disappeared. Patrick Frazee, Kelsey's fiancé, was the last person to claim he saw her. He told investigators that after their Thanksgiving morning, Kelsey had broken up with him and that he hadn't heard from her since. According to Frazee, Kelsey had allegedly called him to end their relationship, and he continued to communicate with her through text messages for the next few days. However, Kelsey's family grew concerned when they couldn't get in touch with her, and after several days of unanswered calls, her mother reported her missing. The investigation into Kelsey's disappearance began, and as they dug deeper, investigators uncovered a trail of blood and lies, the blood evidence and crime scene. As investigators started piecing together the timeline of events, the evidence quickly pointed to something much darker than a simple case of a missing person. Kelsey's brother, who was searching her condo, made a shocking discovery: a blood smear on the bathroom toilet. It was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Crime scene analysts used a special blood visualizing agent, which confirmed that the bathroom had been cleaned after a bloody altercation. The disturbing nature of this discovery led authorities to suspect that Kelsey had met with foul play, and her disappearance was no longer just a case of someone walking away from their life. But who could have done this to Kelsey? What could have been the motive for such an awful crime? Introducing Crystal Lee Kenny. As investigators worked to uncover the truth, they found a key lead in Crystal Lee Kenny, a woman living in Idaho who had been in frequent contact with Patrick Frazee. Crystal, a former rodeo queen and a nurse, seemed an unlikely suspect at first. She didn't have a criminal history, and there was no clear motive for her involvement in Kelsey's disappearance. Initially, Crystal denied knowing anything about Kelsey or Patrick. She claimed she had never met Kelsey, but the evidence didn't support her story. Authorities discovered that Crystal had been in regular contact with Frazee before and after Kelsey's disappearance. The phone records painted a much different picture than the one Crystal had painted for investigators. Crystal's story quickly unraveled, and after weeks of silence, she came forward with a stunning confession. She revealed that she had been in a secret on-again, off-again relationship with Frazee since 2006, and that the two had rekindled their romance by 2018. At first, Crystal had no idea that Frazee was engaged to Kelsey, but when she learned the truth, Frazee began spinning a web of lies about Kelsey. He told Crystal that Kelsey was an abusive mother and that he feared for their daughter's safety. This false narrative eventually led Crystal to agree to help Frazee eliminate Kelsey. The failed attempts to murder Kelsey. Frazee, convinced that Kelsey's death was the only way to move forward with his life and relationship with Crystal, began orchestrating multiple plans to murder Kelsey. His first attempt involved Crystal trying to poison Kelsey's favorite Starbucks drink with prescription drugs. Crystal went to Kelsey's house in September 2018, pretending to be a friendly neighbor offering a coffee drink, but Kelsey never drank the coffee, and the plan failed. Next, Frazee instructed Crystal to use a metal pipe to hit Kelsey in the head. But when Crystal arrived at Kelsey's condo, she became spooked after hearing a dog bark and abandoned the mission. The third attempt involved Crystal waiting outside Kelsey's house, ready to attack with a baseball bat. But once again, Crystal backed out after seeing a police car nearby. These failed attempts to kill Kelsey only seemed to enrage Frazee further, and he realized that if he wanted Kelsey out of the picture, he would have to do it himself, the night of the murder. On Thanksgiving Day 2018, Frazee finally took matters into his own hands. He convinced Kelsey to come over to his house to play a game where she would try to guess the scent of various candles. During this seemingly innocent game, Frazee tied a sweater around Kelsey's eyes, blindfolding her. Then, without warning, he struck her in the head with a bat. The brutality of the attack was chilling. Frazee hit Kelsey 10 to 15 times with the bat, leaving her unrecognizable. Even more disturbingly, their daughter Kaylee was in the house at the time of the murder, completely unaware of the horror unfolding around her. Once Kelsey was dead, Frazee called Crystal to come clean up the crime scene. She made the 13-hour drive from Idaho to Colorado, prepared to erase all traces of the murder, the cleanup and burning of Kelsey's body. When Crystal arrived at Kelsey's condo, she was faced with a horrifying sight. Blood was splattered everywhere, up the walls, on the floors. As she began cleaning, she found a human tooth lying on the floor. The blood was thick and overwhelming, but Crystal scrubbed and wiped away as much as she could, trying to make the crime scene disappear. Crystal packed up items that she couldn't clean, including Kaylee's blood-soaked stuffed animals, and then set to work in erasing every trace of Kelsey's life. Afterward, she drove to Frazee's ranch, where they proceeded to burn Kelsey's body in a plastic tote. The horrific acts they committed were carried out with chilling precision, and the evidence left behind painted a haunting picture of their gruesome crime, the arrest and trial. Crystal eventually confessed to her role in Kelsey's death, but it was too late for her to escape the consequences. Frazee was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The case went to trial, and the details of the murder left jurors in tears. The prosecution argued that Frazee had manipulated Crystal into carrying out his murderous plans, using her love and devotion to control her. But Frazee's actions were far from those of a man in love. He was a calculating and cold-blooded murderer, willing to do anything to get rid of Kelsey. Both Frazee and Crystal faced justice for their roles in the murder of Kelsey Bereth. Frazee was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, while Crystal reached a plea deal in exchange for her cooperation in bringing him to justice. The case of Kelsey Bereth is a tragic reminder of how love can be twisted and manipulated into something dark and deadly. What started as a seemingly normal relationship between a woman and her fiancé turned into a series of brutal events that ended in the senseless death of a mother. Kelsey Bereth's life was taken from her, and her family will never be the same again. The story of Kelsey Barrett's murder is a story of betrayal, deceit, and horror. One that leaves us questioning the lengths some people will go to for their own selfish desires. It's a story that unfortunately still resonates today as we continue to process the chilling truth behind Kelsey Barrett's murder. If you want more crime stories that people don't talk about, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this.